You are listening to Still Within, where Stoic stories become your quiet companion through the night. The day has ended. The lights have dimmed. Somewhere in the distance, the city hums, a low, steady rhythm that reminds you that life continues even as you rest. But here, in this small corner of the world, everything begins to slow. The air grows soft. The noise begins to fade, and you, for the first time today, have nothing to prove, nothing to fix, nothing to chase. The Stoics often began their reflections in the evening. Marcus Aurelius would write in the faint glow of an oil lamp, his words meant not for an audience but for himself, a reminder that the battle of life is not fought outside, but within. And perhaps that is why his words, written nearly 2,000 years ago, still feel so close tonight. He once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." It's a simple sentence, but like all simple things, it contains everything. Every worry, every regret, every restless night, and all return to this truth. We suffer not because the world is cruel, but because we try to control what was never ours to hold. Take a slow breath in. Feel the air move through your body. Now let it go. Notice how without effort the body knows how to release. That is the rhythm of life itself, holding and letting go. Every moment asks us to remember which one to do. Seneca once said, "The greatest blessing of mankind lies within us and within our reach." A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be. He was not speaking from luxury. He wrote those words while serving a volatile emperor, in an empire trembling under suspicion and fear. At any moment, a whisper could cost him his life. And yet he spoke of contentment, of a peace untouched by politics or power. To the Stoics, peace was not a prize to be earned. It was a skill to be practiced. It is something you build inside yourself, breath by breath, thought by thought, until it becomes unshakable. So tonight, as you rest, imagine that ancient wisdom surrounding you. Picture the quiet of Rome at night, the marble halls empty, the torches fading, and somewhere in that stillness, Seneca dipping his pen into ink, writing letters to a friend who also longed to live with calm. He would have told you what he told Lucilius. True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence on the future. How often we forget that. We rush toward the next goal, the next answer, the next day. But the Stoics remind us that everything we ever seek already exists in this single breath. The future is not here. The past is gone, and the present is the only place peace has ever lived. Epictetus, once a slave, crippled in body but free in mind, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." He could not change his chains. He could not choose his master, but he could choose his response. And that choice, quiet, invisible, but absolute, made him freer than the men who ruled him. You too have that power tonight. Not over every event of your day, but over the meaning you give them. You can decide that what went wrong no longer needs to chase you into the dark. You can decide that tonight, rest is more valuable than rumination. You can decide that the mind deserves stillness. The Stoics believed that philosophy was not for debate halls or scholars, but for ordinary people who struggled with anger, fear, and fatigue. People like you, people like me. They did not escape life. They lived it fully, but with a calm awareness that everything, even pain, has its season. Imagine Marcus Aurelius in his military tent, a soft wind carrying the scent of distant fires, the emperor alone beneath the stars. The empire depended on him, and yet he wrote not about conquest or politics, but about his inner life, about humility, kindness, control of thought. He was the most powerful man in the world, and still he reminded himself that the only true empire to rule is the mind. Now, as you lie in bed, you are no less than that emperor. You too can rule the small kingdom within, not with force, but with awareness. The Stoics called it the ruling principle, the part of the soul untouched by the world. When you rest in that space, nothing external can disturb you. Let your thoughts move slowly now, like leaves drifting on the surface of a quiet lake. You don't need to stop them. You only need to watch them pass. Some may whisper of what you said today or what you wish you hadn't. Some may carry the face of someone you miss. Some may remind you of all that waits tomorrow. But notice how when you don't grasp them, they begin to fade on their own. You are not your thoughts. You are the calm presence that observes them. You are the still water beneath their surface, and in that stillness you begin to understand the essence of Stoic peace. Epictetus once said, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Tonight, the event is simply this, the end of a day. How you react is up to you. You can resist it, replaying, regretting, rewriting what cannot be changed. Or you can accept it, acknowledging that it has already done its part in shaping you, and now, it is time to let it go. The Stoics practice something called premeditatio malorum, the contemplation of what could go wrong, not to darken their hearts, but to strengthen them. By facing life's uncertainties before they arrived, they learned to meet the real moment with grace. You can practice a softer form of this now. Think of the challenges that once seemed unbearable, and notice how you survived them. Notice how the pain changed you, how it quietly refined your priorities, your patience, your compassion. That is the secret the Stoics knew. Every trial, every loss, every sleepless night has the potential to teach peace, if you let it. So breathe again. Let your body settle into the bed that holds you. Feel the quiet weight of the blanket, the soft rhythm of your heart. In this stillness, you are already practicing philosophy, not by thought, but by being. You do not need to fix the past. You do not need to predict the future. You only need to be here, aware, calm, and complete in this single moment. Marcus wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Let this be your retreat. Let this moment become your sanctuary. For the next few hours, there is nothing to achieve and us only to receive. The night is generous if you allow it to be. The mind can rest if you stop commanding it to. The body knows how to heal itself if you simply give it permission. All around you, the world continues. The oceans shift, the stars burn, the moon travels her slow path across the sky. And yet in the midst of that vast movement, there is a quiet center that remains still. That center is you. So as you drift deeper into this calm, remember, strength does not always look like action. Sometimes it looks like surrender. Sometimes it looks like trust. And sometimes it looks like this, a single soul breathing softly, content to let the universe move as it will. In the silence that follows, you are not escaping life, you are returning to it. One quiet breath at a time. Sleep may come soon, but even before it does, you have already begun the practice of peace. You are already living the philosophy that guided the Stoics through chaos and war. The practice of calm in the midst of everything. This is where it begins. This is the quiet beginning. There's a quiet strength in knowing when to let go. It's not the kind of strength that people see or celebrate. It doesn't shout, it doesn't prove, it doesn't win. It simply releases. And in that release, the soul finds space again. Space to rest, to breathe, to be. Letting go is one of the hardest things the human heart must learn. We cling to people, to memories, to plans, to versions of ourselves that once made sense. We cling because the mind fears loss, and loss feels like disappearing. But the Stoics saw it differently. They saw every moment as a gift, every person as a visitor, every possession as a loan from fate. To hold gently is wisdom. To release with grace is freedom. Seneca wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive." But what he meant was not only about death itself. He was talking about the countless little deaths that fill our days. The endings, the changes, the letting go of what we once thought permanent. Each time we release, a small part of us dies. The plan we made, the image we carried, the certainty we built. But what remains afterward is lighter, clearer, more alive. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the things you've been holding on to. The thoughts that keep replaying, the faces you can't forget, the what-ifs that whisper at the edge of your mind. Imagine setting them down, one by one, as though they were heavy stones you've carried for too long. The ground beneath you is solid. You don't need to hold them anymore. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not act as if you had 1,000 years to live. While you have life, while it is in your power, be good." He wasn't urging us to hurry, but to stop waiting for perfect conditions to live freely. He was reminding us that life unfolds only in the present, and that most of our suffering comes from our refusal to let the past go, or our fear of what's to come. When you understand that, you begin to live differently. You stop demanding permanence from what is temporary. You stop trying to rewrite events that have already closed. You begin to see the beauty in impermanence. because everything that leaves creates space for what must arrive. There's a story told of Epictetus. One day while teaching, a student dropped a lamp that shattered on the floor. The others gasped, afraid of his reaction. But Epictetus simply looked at the fragments and said, "Do not demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do." He smiled, swept aside the pieces, and continued. That is Stoic composure, not the absence of feeling, but the absence of attachment to how things should have been. Letting go doesn't mean indifference. It means acceptance, the courage to meet life as it is without bending it to fit your expectations. When you can do that, peace is no longer fragile. It doesn't depend on everything going right. It lives quietly within you, untouched by circumstance. Think of a river. If you try to hold the water, it slips through your fingers. But if you step into the current, it carries you effortlessly. That's what the Stoics meant when they spoke of aligning with nature. They weren't talking about forests or mountains, but about the natural flow of life itself. The rhythm of change, the rise and fall, the cycle of beginnings and endings. To live in harmony with that flow is to stop fighting time. To move with it is to finally rest. Seneca told his students, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most of what exhausts the mind is not what is, but what we replay or anticipate. The argument we rehearse, the apology we wish we'd said, the fear of what tomorrow might bring. But the Stoics knew that the mind, untrained, loves to wander into pain, so they practiced returning and again to what was real in front of them. Tonight you can do the same. You can let the images of the day dissolve into the dark. You can let your body sink deeper into the bed. You can let your mind rest on the simple truth that right now you are safe, breathing, alive. This is all that's required. Marcus wrote in his Meditations, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." It's one of the simplest instructions in all of Stoicism, but perhaps the hardest to live. We want to hold on to joy when it comes, to bottle it, to make it stay, and yet that very grasping makes it fade. Everything we clutch too tightly begins to crumble, because life by its nature must move. Letting go, then, is not a loss. It's participation. It's a way of saying, I am part of this movement. I trust it. When you live this way, even sorrow becomes sacred, because it reminds you how deeply you have loved. Epictetus told his followers, when you kiss your child, say to yourself, tomorrow they may die. At first, it sounds cruel, cold, even heartless. But his intent was the opposite. He meant love with full awareness of impermanence. Cherish without illusion. When you accept that everything you love will one day end, you stop taking it for granted. You stop numbing yourself with distraction. You become present fiercely and tenderly. In every moment you are given. That's what letting go truly is, not forgetting, not rejecting, but being here while it lasts. And then when it leaves, allowing it to go without bitterness. Tonight, as you listen, there may be someone or something you're afraid to release. Maybe it's a friendship that drifted away. Maybe it's an opportunity that slipped through your fingers. Maybe it's a version of yourself you no longer recognize. Whatever it is, know that letting go is not the same as erasing. You are not dishonoring what once mattered. You are simply making room for what life will bring next. Marcus said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." The Stoics didn't fight change, then they aligned with it. They believed that peace comes not from possession, but from participation in a world that is always transforming. Like waves on an endless ocean, each moment rises, fulfills its form, and falls away, only to return in another. Let that image rest in your mind. The wave does not fear its end. It knows that ending is part of its purpose. You too are part of that rhythm. And when you remember that, the act of letting go becomes natural, even beautiful. Now as you lie here, take another slow breath. Feel how the air enters, fills, and leaves you. In every breath, you are practicing impermanence. Each inhale receives, each exhale releases, and yet the rhythm sustains you. That is life's secret balance, and a giving and letting go over and over again. So let your body rest heavy. Let your hands unclench. Let your jaw soften. There is nothing left to hold tonight. You have carried enough. The Stoics would tell you, you have done your part, and the rest belongs to the universe. Seneca wrote, wherever a man can live, he can also live well. And perhaps, wherever a man can let go, he can also live freely, because life does not ask you to hold. It asks you to participate, to move in harmony with all that changes, to meet every ending not as punishment, but as part of the pattern. Outside, the world continues to turn. The stars drift in their ancient paths, and you, small and eternal at once, lie within that same cosmic order. The Stoics looked at the night sky and saw not distance but belonging. They saw that everything, every leaf, every breath, every fleeting joy, was an expression of one vast intelligent whole. When you let go, you return to that whole. You stop struggling to control the current, and instead you float, aware, awake, and at peace. So let go now. Of the thoughts that chase you. Of the plans that haunt you. Of the things that never turned out the way you hoped. Let them drift away like mist in the morning sun. In their place, let there be quiet. Let there be peace. Let there be room to simply be. You are not losing yourself in this letting go. You are finding what was always there, the still, unbroken part of you that remains untouched. The center the Stoics called reason, the flame that never flickers. No matter how the wind blows, and as the night deepens, let this truth echo softly inside you. Nothing you let go of was ever truly yours to keep. But what remains, awareness, gratitude, calm, is something that can never be taken away. This is the art of letting go. This is freedom in its quietest form. There's a quiet beauty in acceptance, not the kind that feels like surrender, but the kind that feels like returning home after a long journey. For the Stoics, this beauty was captured in a single phrase, amor fati, the love of fate. It wasn't just about tolerating what happens. It was about embracing it, to look at life with all its chaos and imperfections, and say, "This too I choose," Marcus Aurelius wrote. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. In other words, whatever life gives you, our loss, joy, confusion, or calm, can become fuel for your inner light. It's not life's events that define you, but the way you meet them. Think of the times in your own life when things didn't go as planned. A relationship ended, a dream slipped away, a door closed before you could even knock. In the moment, it might have felt like failure, like something precious had been taken. But looking back, haven't there been moments when what you thought was the end turned out to be a beginning? That is the mystery of amor fati. To love your fate is not to love only the good parts, it's to love the whole tapestry. Every thread, even the ones that seem dark or twisted, is part of a greater pattern you cannot yet see. There's an old story about Epictetus. He was born a slave with no control over his body, his work, or his freedom, but what he realized and then what he taught was that while others could command his body, they could never command his mind. He said, "I must die, but must I die groaning?" In that single line lies the heart of Stoic freedom. We cannot always choose our circumstances, but we can always choose our attitude. We can choose to face suffering with grace, loss with gratitude, and fate with love. Epictetus would later be freed and become one of the most respected teachers in Rome. But even when he had nothing, he was free because his acceptance was complete. He had stopped fighting with the world and started flowing with it. Imagine this, you're standing at the edge of a river. The current is strong, pulling everything forward. Most people spend their lives fighting the current, struggling to swim upstream, trying to make life fit their desires. But the Stoic swims differently. They move with the flow, not against it. They trust that the river knows its course and that wherever it carries them, they can still remain whole inside. That doesn't mean giving up your will or your dreams. It means letting go of the illusion that everything must happen your way. When you love fate, you stop demanding that life be different and start asking how you can live beautifully no matter what happens. Amor fati is not an easy practice. It's one thing to accept a small inconvenience, missing a bus, spilling your coffee, but another to accept heartbreak, illness, or loss. Yet this is precisely where the Stoic finds strength. When life seems unfair, when the pain feels too heavy, you whisper to yourself, "This too is mine. This too is part of my path." There's a strange power in that sentence, a calm, a steadiness. It transforms you from a victim of fate into a partner with it. Life is no longer something happening to you. It's something happening through you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning, "Whatever happens today, I will meet it as a friend." He didn't mean he would enjoy suffering, but he understood that resisting what is only multiplies pain. Acceptance, on the other hand, opens the door to peace. If you can, imagine your life as a grand mosaic. Each tile, bright or dark, smooth or cracked, adds to the picture of who you are. When you step too close, you only see the imperfections. But when you step back, you begin to see the art in it, the balance, the depth, the harmony hidden within apparent chaos. Amor Fati invites you to live from that wider perspective. To trust that even what feels meaningless today may carry meaning tomorrow, and that every experience, however difficult, refines your soul, the way pressure shapes a diamond. In a world that constantly tells you to chase what's pleasant and avoid what's painful, this idea feels radical. But perhaps peace isn't found in avoiding discomfort, but in making peace with it. When you can smile at life, not only when it pleases you, but also when it challenges you, that's when you are truly free. So tonight, as you drift toward rest, let this idea settle softly in your mind. Whatever has happened today, it was meant for you. Not as punishment, not as reward, but as raw material for wisdom. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are exactly where you need to be. And as you breathe, feel that truth take root in your chest. With every exhale, release the need to control. With every inhale, whisper silently, Amor Fati, love your fate, love this life just as it is. Because maybe the secret to peace isn't in changing the world, but in learning to say yes to it, completely, courageously, and with an open heart. So much of our suffering does not come from the world itself, but from the way we see it. The Stoics knew this long before modern psychology gave it a name. They taught that our minds are not just observers of reality, but creators of it. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." A single event, a lost job, a harsh word, a delay, can destroy one person's peace and leave another untouched. What changes? Not the world, the lens through which it's seen. When Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, sickness, and war, he returned to this truth again and again. He reminded himself, if you are pained by anything external, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. That simple sentence is a key, one that can unlock a lifetime of serenity. If you learn how to use it, imagine holding a glass of water. If you shake it, the water ripples and distorts the reflection. You can't see clearly until the motion settles. The same is true for the mind. When stirred by anger, fear, or pride, it can't perceive truth. But when it grows still, when you let the surface calm, clarity returns naturally. The Stoics called this ataraxia, a state of undisturbed calmness. It doesn't mean indifference or numbness. It means equilibrium, a mind so centered that nothing from the outside can unbalance it for long. To practice this, begin with a single moment of awareness. When something irritates or frightens you, pause. Ask yourself, is this truly bad or is it just my opinion of it? Often that small space between the event and your reaction is all it takes to change everything. Seneca once wrote that, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." How many nights have you spent awake? Not because of what is happening, but because of what might happen. We play endless scenes in our minds. Losses that haven't occurred, words that haven't been said, and each one steals a little of our peace. The Stoic approach is not to suppress those fears, but to meet them with honesty and calm. To say, yes, this might happen, and if it does, I will meet it when it comes and not before. It's a gentle discipline, a refusal to live twice through pain, once in imagination and once in reality. There's a story of a Roman general who, after a crushing defeat, returned home to shame and ridicule. While others would have drowned in bitterness, he simply said, "I was never promised victory, only the chance to act with courage." Perspective turned loss into strength. He could not change what happened, but he could decide what it meant. That is the quiet art of seeing clearly, choosing meaning that frees you instead of meaning that imprisons you. Seeing what is, not what you wish it to be, and still saying, "This is enough." The Stoics loved the metaphor of the archer. You can control the pull of the bow, the steadiness of your aim, the precision of your practice, but once the arrow leaves your hand, fate decides the rest. If the arrow flies true, be grateful. If it misses, be grateful still, for the chance to aim again. When you stop judging your life by its outcomes, you begin to live more freely. You realize that success is not in hitting every target, but in how you hold yourself while you aim. Perspective is a choice. Every day you can decide to focus on what's missing or on what remains. You can dwell on the storm or on the strength it's building in you. You can see a delay as punishment or as protection from something you can't yet see. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." It's a reminder that even obstacles can become allies if you shift your sight just a little. Maybe the delay teaches patience. Maybe the loss deepens compassion. Maybe the pain reveals what truly matters. The more you learn to see this way, the lighter life feels, not because it has become easier, but because you have become wiser. So tonight, as you rest, imagine looking at your day through a softer lens. Let go of harsh judgment, of yourself, of others, of the world. What if everything that happened today was exactly what needed to happen for your growth? What if every person who crossed your path, even the difficult ones, was there to teach you something about peace, patience, or boundaries? Let that thought settle like dust in sunlight, quietly, gently, and feel your mind grow still again. Seeing clearly isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about being calm enough to see what's true. When the ripples fade, the reflection returns. And in that reflection, you might recognize something eternal. Not the noise of the world, but the quiet strength of your own soul. There is a gentle art to peace, and it begins with letting go. Not in the way we often imagine it, like erasing memories or closing doors, but in a softer way, a way that accepts impermanence as part of the rhythm of life. The Stoics understood that to hold too tightly is to suffer unnecessarily. Seneca said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." The pain of life is real, but we often add to it by clinging to what we can't keep. We try to hold time still, to freeze moments, to make people stay. But everything in its own time must move on. To let go is not to lose. It is to return things, people, plans, even pieces of yourself, back to the flow of nature. Because nothing truly belongs to us. We are only caretakers for a while. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, would often remind himself that one day, he too would be gone, as would everyone he loved and everyone who loved him. He did not write this to be morbid. He wrote it to awaken gratitude, to see every sunrise, every voice, every small kindness as something borrowed from eternity. When you understand that everything is temporary, life becomes infinitely more precious. You stop rushing. You start noticing the sound of rain against the window, the softness of someone's laughter, the quiet peace of simply being here alive in this breath. Letting go is not the end of love. It is the beginning of pure love, love without demand, without fear, love that says, "You may go, and I will still be grateful for the time we shared." Epictetus told his students, "When you kiss your child goodnight, remind yourself that they are mortal, not to cause sorrow, but so you will love them more deeply, without fear." To modern ears, that may sound harsh, but it's a call to wake up to life as it is, not as we wish it to be. When you know that something is fleeting, you stop taking it for granted. You stop holding back your affection, your forgiveness, your presence. You stop assuming there will be endless tomorrows, and instead you pour yourself fully into today. That is the quiet freedom the Stoics spoke of. Not detachment, but non-attachment. The ability to love fully without clinging. To give your heart completely and yet remain whole when life changes its shape. Think of a leaf in autumn. It clings to the branch through summer's storms, but when the wind turns cold, it releases its hold. It doesn't fight gravity. It doesn't curse the air. It simply falls on gracefully, becoming part of something larger. Letting go is that kind of grace. It's not weakness. It's trust. Trust that life continues even when something ends. Trust that you are still carried even when you feel lost. The Stoics believed that the universe itself was rational, that it unfolds as it must. So when you lose something, perhaps it is not truly loss, but transformation. Perhaps it is life rearranging itself for your growth, your understanding, your peace. In modern life, we hold so much. Screens filled with messages, minds filled with noise, hearts filled with unfinished stories. We keep replaying conversations that are already over. We rehearse regrets that can't be undone. And in doing so, we weigh ourselves down. But peace cannot live in a clenched fist. It comes only when you open your hand. Try this now, even in your imagination. Unclench the hand of your mind. Release the old worries, the imagined futures, the words left unsaid. They are not yours to carry. Let them drift like leaves on water out of your grasp and into the quiet. Notice how light that feels, that subtle relief in your chest. That is the soul remembering its natural state, unburdened. Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Letting go, then, is not only about endings, it's about clearing space for what's next. When you stop clutching at what has passed, your hands are open to receive what's coming. So as you rest tonight, think of one thing you've been holding too tightly, a fear, a grudge, a memory, a dream that no longer fits, and gently, without judgment, release it. Not because it no longer matters, but because you matter too. Let it go, with gratitude, with love, with trust. Because what is truly meant for you can never be lost, and what is not meant for you will fall away no matter how tightly you hold on. When you let go, you don't fall apart. You fall into life. You fall back into presence, into peace, into that timeless awareness the Stoics called harmony with nature. You stop struggling to control the flow and begin to float with it. The art of letting go is, in the end, the art of living freely. It is the courage to release control and the grace to meet life as it comes. It is the strength to say, "I no longer need this," and the serenity to whisper, "Thank you," as it goes. When all the noise of the world fades, when possessions, status, and success lose their color, what remains? For the Stoics, only one thing was truly good: virtue. Everything else, wealth, fame, pleasure, comfort, they called indifference. Things that may decorate life but cannot define it. Because a good life, they said, is not measured by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. And that response, the essence of who you are under pressure, is your virtue. To the Stoics, virtue was not just moral behavior. It was the very alignment between your inner reason and the rhythm of nature. It meant living as part of something larger than yourself, harmonizing with the order of the universe rather than resisting it. They believed that the universe itself was rational, guided by logos, divine reason. And to live in virtue was to live in agreement with that reason, to live, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, in accordance with nature, calmly, nobly, wisely. Virtue was divided into 4 guiding lights: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Each one is a reflection of something we already carry inside. They are not commandments to obey, but directions to return to, over and over, like a compass pointing north. Wisdom is the foundation. Without it, the others lose their shape. It's not about intellect or education, but clarity, the ability to see things as they are, not as emotion or ego paints them. The wise person pauses before reacting. They see the full picture, the impermanence of life, the limits of control, the smallness of individual worries against the vastness of the cosmos. Wisdom is what allows you to breathe before you speak, to listen before you judge, to understand before you condemn. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every morning. He would remind himself, "Today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful," not to start the day in bitterness, but to begin it in realism, to anchor his expectations in wisdom. By expecting imperfection, he could remain calm when he encountered it. Wisdom teaches us that peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in perfect understanding. When you see clearly, the storms of life no longer confuse you. You recognize them for what they are: passing weather. The second virtue is justice. For the Stoics, justice was more than fairness. It was the recognition that we are all parts of one living whole. Seneca wrote, "We are members of one great body, planted by nature in mutual dependence." Justice means living with integrity, acting rightly even when no one is watching. It means compassion that doesn't depend on reward, and kindness that doesn't depend on mood. It is the practice of seeing others not as tools for your comfort, but as equals in your shared human struggle. Marcus saw his role as emperor, not as privilege, but as service. His journals reveal not a ruler basking in power, but a man constantly reminding himself to remain humble, patient, and just. "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years, he wrote. "While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Justice is not about grand gestures, it's found in everyday choices. How you speak, how you listen, how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Every act of fairness, no matter how small, is an offering to the harmony of the world. It is how the Stoic participates in something eternal. The third virtue is courage. It is the strength to live in truth, to act rightly despite fear, loss, or uncertainty. Courage doesn't mean you never tremble. It means you move forward even as you tremble. Seneca called courage the testing ground of virtue, because every other virtue depends on it. Wisdom means little if you lack the courage to follow it. Justice is empty if you're too afraid to defend it. Temperance fails if you don't have the courage to say no. But courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It's in showing up when you'd rather disappear. It's in forgiving someone who hasn't asked. It's in choosing patience when anger feels easier. Courage is facing life without guarantees. It's what allows you to say, I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I will meet it with an open heart. Marcus Aurelius faced war, plague, and the death of his children, yet his writings remained tender, calm, and wise. He never denied the pain, but he refused to let it corrupt his soul. That is courage in its highest form, to remain kind in a world that could easily make you cruel. The final virtue, temperance, is the art of balance. The restraint to know when enough is enough. It is not denial, but discipline. It's the freedom that comes from self-control. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In a world addicted to excess, temperance is a quiet rebellion. It means enjoying without clinging, succeeding without boasting, loving without possession. It's the simple strength to stop scrolling, stop comparing, stop grasping, to return to the simplicity of the present moment. Temperance reminds you that peace doesn't come from adding more, but from needing less. It's the soft, deliberate choice to live by design, not by desire. When you practice temperance, your mind grows lighter. You no longer chase every impulse, you steer your own ship. And that, the Stoics believed, is what freedom truly means. These four virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, are not separate paths. They are one road with four steady steps. Each supports the others, forming a life that is balanced, strong, and good. They don't promise that life will be easy, but they promise that you will be ready. Calm in joy, steady in loss, anchored in meaning. Virtue cannot protect you from the winds of life, but it can make you the kind of person who stands firm in any storm. Seneca once wrote, "A good character, when established, becomes a constant companion." That is the reward of virtue. It gives you yourself, a friend you can trust no matter what the world takes away. When fortune turns against you, virtue remains. When others misunderstand you, virtue speaks quietly within. You did right. When time erases everything you built, virtue endures as the invisible architecture of your soul. Virtue doesn't glitter, but it glows. It's not loud, but it lasts. It's the peace that can't be bought, the dignity that can't be taken, the stillness that doesn't depend on circumstance. So tonight, as the noise of the day fades, ask yourself gently, did I live with wisdom? Did I act with justice? Did I show courage when fear tried to silence me? Did I practice temperance when temptation whispered? If the answer is not always yes, that's okay. The Stoics never demanded perfection, only effort, only intention. What matters is not that you are flawless, but that you are awake to your flaws, that you rise again tomorrow and try once more, because every moment offers you another chance to live with virtue, to realign, to begin again, to grow a little closer to the calm center of your own soul. In the end, virtue is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you already are beneath distraction and desire, a being capable of reason, compassion, courage, and peace. Virtue is not a mask you wear. It is your truest face when all else falls away. And maybe that's what it means to live a good life. Not to escape the storms, but to become the kind of person who can walk through them with integrity intact, with kindness undiminished, with a heart still, and a spirit still within. Night has deepened. The world outside has grown quiet. No rush, no demands, no eyes watching. Just the hum of the earth, the breath of your own body, and a gentle stillness that begins to unfold within you. This is the hour the Stoics cherished, the hour of solitude, when all distractions fade and only truth remains. When you are not what you do or what you own or what others think, you are simply what you are. A soul, breathing in rhythm with the universe. Marcus Aurelius would write in these moments by the faint light of a lamp. He would speak not to an audience, not to posterity, but to himself. His meditations were not meant for others. They were his way of returning home to his own mind. He wrote to remember that peace is found nowhere else. "Look within," he said, "for within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up, if you will ever dig." That digging, that gentle return to the self, is what this stillness is for. All day long, the world asks us to turn outward, to chase, to compare, to react. But the Stoic path leads in the opposite direction, inward toward the quiet center that cannot be touched by praise or blame. It is there that freedom lives. There where thought and breath meet, you begin to see clearly. The mind softens, and what once felt unbearable loses its weight. You realize that the storms were never the problem. It was the way you held them. Letting go does not mean indifference. It means trust. It means knowing that life moves with its own rhythm, and that you are part of that rhythm, not separate from it. Like a wave dissolving back into the sea, every struggle eventually returns to calm. The Stoics called this harmony with nature, to accept the flow, to participate in it without resistance. And when you do, something remarkable happens. The world doesn't change, but your relationship to it does. Try this now. Breathe in slowly. Feel the air enter, cool, patient, alive, then let it go. As if each breath carries away a small fragment of tension. With each exhale, release another expectation, another worry, another should, until what remains is something pure, just being. This, Epictetus might say, is the only thing truly yours. Your will, your ability to choose how to see, how to respond, how to love. Everything else, your body, possessions, reputation, even time itself, is on loan. They come and go like seasons. But this, the calm authority over your own mind, is your home. Imagine for a moment that all the noise of the world fades. The screens, the headlines, the deadlines, the noise of ambition, gone. You are sitting beneath a night sky, vast and silent. The stars are not hurried. The wind does not argue. The sea does not wish to be anything other than what it is. You too belong to that same order. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply here, a small part of a vast, intelligent whole. Marcus wrote, "All that you see will soon perish. Those who witness its passing will soon perish too. Only one thing remains, and to live rightly, and to accept calmly what nature gives." The Stoics never meant this as despair. They meant it as freedom. Because once you see how fleeting everything is, you begin to hold it with tenderness, not fear. The sunrise becomes a gift. The face of a loved one becomes sacred. Even your own breath feels like grace. And when you live like that, every moment becomes home. Seneca once said that a wise person carries tranquility within them wherever they go. They are not at the mercy of cities, noise, or fortune, because their peace does not depend on what's outside. Imagine living like that, where even in chaos you remain centered, where even in loss you remain whole, where even in solitude you are not lonely, because you are in the company of something eternal, your own reason, your own virtue. This is what the Stoics trained for every day. Not to escape life, but to walk through it untouched by its illusions, to find joy in simplicity, to see beauty in impermanence, to act rightly, love deeply, and then rest, knowing that nothing essential can be taken away. There's a small passage from Marcus that captures this peace perfectly. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive and to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love, and at night the same applies. Think of what a privilege it was to have lived another day, to have learned even a little, to have loved even imperfectly, to have endured and to still be here, breathing under this same sky that has watched over countless lives before yours. Every breath connects you to them, to Zeno, to Seneca, to Marcus, all men who once stood where you stand, looking for peace, trying to live with virtue, and just like them, you can choose to return to stillness now. The Stoics often use the image of the inner citadel, a fortress within the soul that cannot be conquered by the world. Not walls of pride, but walls of understanding, a place where nothing external can reach to disturb you. You carry that citadel inside you now. It's not built through withdrawal, but through awareness. Every time you resist anger, you lay a stone. Every time you forgive, you strengthen the gate. Every time you act with reason instead of impulse, the walls grow taller, and inside it is quiet. There you are safe. There you are whole. Even if tomorrow brings uncertainty, this stillness remains untouched. It is the same stillness that Marcus found in a war tent, that Epictetus found in poverty, that Seneca found in exile. It does not depend on luck. It depends on you. So as you rest tonight, imagine that you are returning to that inner citadel. The gates close gently. The noise fades to nothing. Within these walls there is only calm. You sit in silence, and not emptiness, but fullness. The kind of silence that hums with meaning. The kind that feels like coming home. You have walked through the lessons of the Stoics, through perception, control, acceptance, letting go, and virtue. And now at the end of this path, you have arrived where you began, within yourself. This is where philosophy becomes peace. Not an idea, but an experience. The quiet recognition that you are enough, as you are right now. Let the words of Marcus close this night. Know where you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. Retreat to consult your own nature and return to it often. That retreat is not escape, and it is restoration. Each time you return, you remember that life's beauty has always been here, waiting behind the noise. You are not your past. You are not your worries. You are not the opinions of others. You are simply the awareness behind it all, calm, observing, infinite, and as you rest in that awareness, you can finally let go. Let the body soften. Let the breath slow. Let the mind quiet. You are safe. You are home. You are still within. Tomorrow the world will return with its noise, its demands, its unpredictability. But tonight, let all that go. You have done enough. You have been enough, and when morning comes, rise with calm strength, ready to meet the day not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a companion to be understood. Because the secret of the Stoics is not about hardening against life, it's about softening into it. About seeing clearly, acting justly, accepting fully, and living peacefully. And that peace, this peace is not out there waiting. It's already here, quietly in the stillness within. So rest now. You are home. You are where you belong. You are still within.